Hello, everybody. This is the great Johannes speaking for another live stream podcast. I make a distinction between like podcasts where I don't have a live audience and I just tell my story. You'll find those on my website, www.jmk.info. And I also post these live streams where you can join me. I hope everybody can hear me because I sometimes have audio problems, so I gotta check. Yeah, it's supposed to be fine. Playing some music in the background, some quiet classical music. If it's too loud, people can let me know. Let's start with something I posted on my Twitter at JohannesMKX. For decades, if not much longer, white people have been vilified by people actively subverting our history, our crime stats, and our culture. We have every right to stand up for ourselves now and overturn the disgusting lies told about us. I say all this because recently I've been reading up on some books about our colonial history, and it's just all so very different from what the mainstream news tell us. So this comes in several layers, right? You have what actually happened, then you have what is recorded about what happened, then you have what researchers say based on those records meaning diaries and first-hand witness accounts. So then the researchers have their own version of it, and then there's what the news says, what the scientists said about the first-hand records about what actually happened. So history is layered in the sense that you often don't really know the truth at all, and it can be interpreted and reinterpreted in many different ways. And that's why the story we hear today of the white man being some kind of mother of all monsters the entire white man's history is just a string of holocausts and genocides and mass murder and killing just for resources or something, right? And that's just completely untrue. In fact, that is defamation, that is slander, that is vilification. That should be criminal. And people who talk about us that way should be placed under arrest for a very, very long time. What I mean to say is referring to, for example, Shiloh Hendricks, that woman who said the N-word because she claims a black kid, was trying to steal from her kid's diaper bag, right? She says the N-word, flips the finger, and is being recorded by some black guy who turns out to be some pederast who raped a teenager. So welcome to the real world. In the real world, ordinary white people, lower class white people, they certainly are not going to listen to the moral code of the time, so to say. They puncture through this, and if we then support those people, like Shiloh Hendricks on her Give, Send, Go, she's got like $600,000 coming in, more than that Caramello Anthony fellow who murdered a kid, right? We need to start standing up for ourselves, and we do this primarily by just letting go of all this fake guilt and fake shame. If you've noticed this, there's this public Texas sex offender registry, and I'm looking at my Twitter X here over. I just posted something like here. Just an example, the Texas Public Sex Offender website, and then it lists Mohammed Zohaib as white. He's a dark brown. Ahmed Abdullah Al-Nasser is listed as a white. He clearly looks North African. Saad Aman Shergill, maybe he has a British last name, but he's a definite brown guy, classed as white. Mohammed Memon, classed as a white guy, he's definitely not a white guy. So it turns out in the USA, very likely, this has been going on for a long time. People from India, the Middle East, and North Africa have been booked as white people. Now, if it had said Caucasian, it would have been more believable. Yeah, maybe perhaps North Africans, Indians, and so on have Caucasian skulls. The word Caucasian refers to the skull shape that they say originated from the Caucasus region and then spread to Europe and so on and so forth. However, white they are not. Not all Caucasians are white people. When we say white, traditionally we mean the Northwest European type people, like the Swedes and the Germans and the Anglo and the Saxons who went to the USA, right? Who colonized the USA, and those became the white people because in the United States, they had to make this decision. What do we do about this European melting pot? You've got the Irish people living there. You've got the Swedes, the Norwegians, and the Germans, and so on. Austrians coming into the USA. What do we call them? And so they came up with an idea. Why don't we just call all of them white people? But these people that were then called white are Northwest Europeans, not even Southern Europeans, right? Not even Slavic people, right? Just Northwest Europeans. And that means if you would remove all these non-white Caucasians, the Muhammads and the Abdullahs and the Saad Amans and so on, you would find that white men in the Western world commit almost no rape and almost no murder. Yet they wanted you to believe the exact opposite. They wanted you to believe in the 1980s, for example, that white men were serial killers. Turns out the majority of serial killers in the USA have actually been black men. Right? It's just such an incredible vilification of our people. The statistics are false. Even if it says, for example, that, oh, white men are like the top pedophile rapists in the USA, but the people they call white are called Muhammad and Abdullah, right? And Ahmed, right? So this is totally false. Hold on. It's just horrifically evil that the European people are accused of colonialism, and when you study the history books, it turns out it's not what they say, right? They accuse us of committing all these crimes that are not being committed by us. They're being committed by other people. They're being committed by Indians and North Africans, right? And then you have these morons who think it's just about skin color. But dude, I have eyes. I can see people's faces. Like, you can paint your face white with Adobe Photoshop or Paint, and I can still see that you're an African or an Indian or a Chinese. I can see your face. Like, is that perhaps something that also exists? Facial blindness? Are there people who cannot distinguish between their Indian face and a white person's face? Because I can. And I think most people can do that. You know? So this is evil. We are dealing with vilification. It's been going on for far too long. And maybe I'm gonna turn down the volume of the music a little bit, because don't know if it bothers, but we are dealing with a wholesale attack on our being, on our history. We've just been scapegoated. The world scapegoated us and wants us gone and destroyed, right? So did you notice that the whole globalist system went after the masculine societies, the Germanics, the Japanese, because they have patriarchal cultures, right? And of course the USA, the white people of the USA also have a patriarchal culture, though not even as strong as it used to be in Japan or Germany. Those countries, Japan and Germany, have been destroyed, right? Their culture has been destroyed. They've been made to submit to a more matriarchal, globalistic sensitivities. And the idea, of course, is to create a global communistic world ruled by women, matriarchal and so on, right? All right, so the painting in my backdrop, by the way, is by Caspar David Friedrich. Caspar David Friedrich, you may have heard of him. He also made the other famous painting of the guy standing on a mountaintop overlooking the clouds, the Wanderer. This is the Moonrise by the Sea, or sometimes called Moonrise over the Sea, from 1822, an oil on canvas. I like it. Let me show you. Thanks for the hat. I'll turn off my webcam for a second so you can see the... Right, so that's what we want to see, right? Let me check. Yeah, my chat box is up. All right. Right, yeah. This painter has a habit of enlarging buildings and ships and so on. So they're larger than life, but the people are, well, tall, but still normally sized, right? So that's... I like that about this person's style, right? All right, let me see. I saw a lot of comments here that I missed, so I'm gonna go through it a little bit. All right, thank you for the crazy stuff. Yeah, people always ask me this, like, what do you think about Dutch Indian Christian nationalists? I go back to India. I mean, quit bothering me with this nonsense. I mean, have you never noticed that white people never ask things like this? White people don't say, hey, Indian people, what do you think of white converts to Buddhism or something? Like, we never ask you this because we don't care. The fact you care so much to be included in our world tells me two things. You are extremely deeply insecure about who you are, and secondly, you have no culture, so you have to borrow ours. Right. Hey, Seth wrote here, hey Johannes, you're a big fan. You literally watched all of my, or 9 out of 10 of my, of every one of my YouTube videos. My God, okay. That's incredible, yeah. Thank you for your support, man. You can, I don't know if you've subscribed to my jmk.info newsletter, but definitely stay in the loop if you like it so much, yeah. What's your overall, what did you learn from watching all my videos? That would be interesting to know, right? Because I like to improve, you know, I want to get better, unpack my live streams with more information or more fun things to talk about, and same with the newsletters I write. I guess I have this desire to put out what I know, my information, my insights about how things work, and I seem to always have something to talk about, so yeah, I can keep going, and I hope to keep doing this. In some way or form, I hope to achieve some kind of influence in the world. I obviously don't like the world that we live in. Why, for example, don't we have the right to free association in the West? The right to free association means if you don't want to live with black people, you shouldn't have to live with black people. If you don't want to live, you know, with Indians, you shouldn't have to live with them. And freedom of association is basically a core concept that should be part of multicultural societies. Like, I suppose I can tolerate having a Muslim neighborhood somewhere, but don't tell me that they're my equals and that I have to live with them and we're all one human race. That shit has got to go. All right. Talking about gothic girls, I don't really want to talk about gothic girls, but anyway. Yeah, they do the same with the Hispanic whites, which are really Latin American mixed people, yeah. So, Spaniards, yeah, I've been to Spain, and Spain has had this Visigoth influx, Germanic people, basically. So, yeah, lots of Spaniards people are kind of descendants of Germanics and Vikings even, but not in the south. You know, you can clearly see the distinction between a Germanic white type Spaniard, right? And his name may be Jose or Julio, right? But they look really white. Whereas in southern Spain, you have the Arabs, right? The Arabized Spaniards and the mixed Spaniards, who are clearly brownish North African types, and I would not think of them as white people, you know? Same in southern Italy. I've been to Bari, where there's a port. You can take the ferry to Greece. People in Bari overall, they look North African to me. So southern Italians may not be, right? And this makes sense because, of course, the North Italians are Germanics, right? So they're white people, right? All right. So all this talk about, you know, this and that, it matters only to the sense where, how come I don't have the right to decide who I want to live with? You know, it's such a basic thing that should be in the Constitution, but it's not. I was surprised to find out that in the United States, at some point, there was this movement. There's this famous picture of these guys with the bayonets pushing white people, young white people, into the black neighborhood, forcing them to integrate with the blacks. That was insane. That should never have happened. You should have freedom of association, meaning you should be able to have a neighborhood that says, we don't want no you here, right? Yeah, there are blondes in Spain, yeah. preach the truth, of course, yeah. The one drop rule, even a drop of black or brown makes you not white. Yeah, maybe in some way it does, yeah. Dazo, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing fine, yeah. So, I wanted to talk a bit more about defamation of white people, our subversion of our history. That means rewriting history in a way where they insert all sorts of horrible, ridiculous lies. Turns out, I read a whole book about this, but it turns out that, they claim that King Leopold of Belgium somehow killed up to 13 million blacks in the Congo. Turns out that never happened, and the actual tally was 10,000 over a period of 20 years due to skirmishes between the locals and the Belgian police forces. And they ballooned that into 10 million. So always deduct 3 zeros from these so-called Holocaust numbers, right? So it's from 10,000 to 10 million, it's actually 10,000, right? This is disgusting. What they are doing is these fake historians are trying to rewrite white men's history as though it's just a string of holocausts and genocides and mass murders, thereby building the case for a justified extermination of our people based on things that didn't happen, right? So that's what they're doing. Now you want to wonder also, like, why would they do that to us? Because of competition. Before white Europeans ventured out and discovered the world or explored all these continents and then captured the 7 seas and the global trade routes, before that, it was actually the Middle East that was most powerful. Istanbul, for a long time, was the wealthiest city in the world. After Rome fell, it became Byzantine, right? Istanbul used to be Constantinople, part of the Byzantine Empire, right? And that area controlling the Middle East, the Mediterranean Sea, was the wealthiest in the world because all the trade through Africa, Asia, the Silk Roads, and Europe, it all flowed through there. And then those nasty, damn Europeans and their big-ass sailboats, they thought they could just circumvent all that and conquer the world from the seas. That's what the British Empire did, after all. That's why you have the USA today. The US and Britain still kind of control the global sea routes, right? And that's what makes them so wealthy now. And that's why these Middle Eastern types, the Semitics, Arabs and Jews, right, Muslims and Jews, they're pissed because their business model before colonialism was based on slavery. And because Europeans and their technology, inventing machines that could do the work of 10 men or 1,000 men, basically made slavery obsolete. We didn't need to compete on the quantitative level. We were competing on the technology, on the quality of our technology. And so what happens is the slave markets, slavery really died out because it stopped being profitable. Because the Western man, the white man, focused so successfully on technological innovation to get machines to do our labor for us, such as during the industrial age, right? So we still need people, but a lot we can do. We are like 50 times as productive than a slave, right? We invented cars, for example, so you don't need 50 horses, 50 horsepower. Now you have a 300 horsepower car, right? You have trucks with thousands of horsepower. It replaced slave labor. It replaced the need for breeding blacks and hauling them through the slave routes to Arabia. I've come to rethink my understanding of what technology is. Technology is actually masculine magic. It is based on an attempted mastery of the physical world, bringing it to heel, dominating it, and submitting Gaia, or Earth, to our command. That's what that is. Whereas the mystical, hysterical, shrieking and crying, and the emotional that you get from the socialists, that is feminine magic, right? So it's the masculine and the feminine. And that's why the whole world, who could never catch up with European technology, except, of course, yes, admittedly, the East Asians today are, but because the East Asians were able to learn from us. They were able to advance now because of what we invented. And so I think there is a large potential here for the white European man to advance technology in a way that we very soon become more advanced than the East Asians again, precisely because we are the ones traditionally able to create it, right? Not just to copy it and then improve upon it, but to create entire new angles of technology. So I see technology not necessarily as a bad thing anymore. I mean, for a while I understand, for example, that I don't like smog in my city, and I don't like the loudness of construction machinery and so on, right? And of course I prefer living in nature, and I think we can develop a new kind of technology that is more in tune with human desires of peace and quiet. But at the same time, the white man, the Western man, needs to continue developing way more advanced technologies that allow us once again to dominate the earth and to submit the others to our will. Why would we sell it for less? You know, we don't have to tolerate this anymore. Africans invented absolutely nothing. Yeah, I think they composed this piece of music when John F. Kennedy died, or it became popular when he died. They played it, right? Yeah, you watched my recent videos? Yeah, that's great, yeah. What is the solution to save our continent? Well, I'm just talking about it. Mastery of the physical world. The European man needs to go back to the laboratories, or to the garages, or to wherever we have our tools, wherever we feel most inspired to work on new technology. And I'm not talking about AI and the internet shit, man. That's just communication technology. I'm talking about angles that have previously been neglected. Perhaps I'm thinking chemistry. You know, there was a time that German chemists and German physicists were leading the pack in the world. By 1939, the Germans had, for example, become the largest producer of aluminum. And with aluminum, they were able to construct lightweight airplanes, fighter jets, like the Messerschmitt, which came as a complete and total surprise to the Americans and the British, who had never seen anything like it, because the Messerschmitt was able to fly 5 times as fast, break through the sound barrier, than any other plane that the British and the Americans had ever built. The Germans understood the essence of air-to-air combat, right? That air power was going to win the Germans over, right? The Germans also discovered, because they were cut off from oil, they started turning coal. Germany, by the way, still has like 13% of the world's coal supply. So they start converting coal into jet fuel. And along the way, they discovered that, did you know there's a process where you can take 60 kilograms of coal and turn it into a kilogram of edible butter? You can eat coal, turn it into butter, edible butter, yeah, and jet fuel, and so on. And so those are those angles that you are normally not going to traverse unless you are put under severe extreme pressures. In this case, the Germans went to war. They were cut off from all sorts of energy sources, and they were forced to innovate. And that's when we fare the best. So, I mean, in the overall sense, white men, European men have the potential to tap into, as I said, previously neglected angles of industry, chemistry, right, mechanical engineering, and advance this whole thing not through a slow process of iterative evolution, but rather in a big jump from where we are now to a super futuristic space age where we put ourselves ahead of the pack once again, but this time by a whole century or 1,000 years or so, right? Leaving people behind 1,000 years. That's what our aim ought to be. Our aim is not so much to retreat into the woods and live as live off of an off-the-grid little plantation, and while others take over. No, our goal is to figure out how do we get from where we are now to a position of total dominance. right? So our aim is to quit giving fucks about what the rest of the world says or thinks about us, and totally re-energize ourselves with confidence, focus on the development of competence and talent, genius new inventions, right? That's how we move forward. Now, I don't think AI is going to help us. Recently, I read that they're pivoting already. They thought they could design the AI chatbots like ChatGPT and Grok into something that would lure people in, and then they can sell you advertising, right? That's why when you say something to Grok or ChatGPT, it says like, "Oh, you have a wonderful, fascinating insight. Here's why what you're saying could be true," right? They really try to make you fall in love with the chatbot, and that didn't work already because they are already pivoting from chatbots to fake friends on social media. So on Facebook, for example, they want to give you fake AI friends that you can interact with, which to me tells me something, is that the AI chatbots are not monetizable. They can't make money off of it, right? And they're pivoting to fake friends, but that's such a ludicrously dumb idea. You're not going to waste your time with 10 fake AI friends. No, what that means is that AI is not replacing mathematicians. It's not replacing developers. It's not replacing consultants. It's not replacing notaries. It's not doing any of that. AI is a stillbirth. It's a waste of money and time. This is not where we are going. My general problem with this Elon Musk guy and these other ones, Sam Altman, is they are just in it for the money. They're not really innovating to advance our race. They are innovating for them to make more money, which is a total different mindset, a different attitude. You are only looking at, how do I fool or trick people into buying a subscription for Grok? Because they're selling subscriptions, right? It's like $100 a month for ChatGPT or something, right? They thought that was going to be the business model, and that is silly. That is something we don't need to do anymore. What's annoying when I play music in the background is they didn't normalize the levels of the songs and the pieces, so all of a sudden you have these louder parts coming in, and it's a bit annoying. I'm gonna turn down the volume a bit. So. Right, the migrants to Germany. No, what do you think? What are these migrants coming to the West today? They are the Deliveroo people delivering your food, right? They are the cleaners and the window washers and the people who wash old people's dicks. No, seriously, in the hospitals, you have these nurses from Ghana and from Nigeria. They're washing our old people's dicks. They're dick washers. Don't count on them to come up with the next phase in human evolution. So I think we need to embrace or rethink our whole technology stack. This doesn't mean I want the Earth to turn into a sort of Death Star planet made of glass and steel and concrete. That is not at all what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of having a world such as in my background here, this painting, a world that could look like that, but has extreme, intelligent, powerful high tech behind it that is a bit more hidden, right? So that we have limitless energy to do whatever we want, but also limitless military capacity to defend ourselves, right? And to keep all these bad people out, right? Yeah, so I recorded a video this morning on TikTok about the fact that Europe is now a totalitarian communist state system. I suspect that this is just going to get worse. The European Union is falling. United States is falling. Like, what I'm trying to explain is our present focus on technology is just to make money off it, whereas our focus on technology should be to reinvigorate ourselves and to reestablish ourselves as the dominant patriarchal group in this world that legitimately rules over all the others. Because we are, after all, more mature. That's it, you know. Well, Reform, I think, is a joke. It's just controlled opposition. Reform UK with Nigel Farage. They're basically about to fuse with Nigeria under Reform. That's what they call Reform, to make the UK black or something. Right? This is nonsense, man. I'm just so tired of this. Do you think there will be a great war in Europe in our lifetime? I foresee a war where Russia, behind the scenes, is allying itself with Turkey. The old Russian Empire allying with the old Ottoman Empire and allying with African nations. Algeria is already militarizing today. Why would what for? To invade France, and then you have the black countries, say the West African black countries and also East African black countries that are now increasingly under Chinese and Russian colonial influence. So I suspect there's a potential for a Russian Islamic black alliance that wants to invade Europe, which would be the perfect opportunity for us Europeans to in that heat of the moment when our survival is truly at stake, I think we will find new ways and new solutions. And it would be good to suffer that kind of pressure for a while and force ourselves, firstly, to develop social cohesion among our own people, that we start caring about each other again, that we stand up for each other again, that we understand who the enemy really is. It's Africa, it's Islam, it's Turkey, it's Russia, together, right? Now, when I say Russia, yes, I dream of an alliance between, say, the white Europeans and the white Russians. Russia has 110 million white people. I don't want to attack them. Yeah, I wish we could have an alliance with them, Christian Russians, against Islam. And maybe that will happen. Maybe ultimately that will happen, that we are seeing, what we are seeing are the contours of a holy war between the white Christians of Europe and the blacks and the Muslims of the world around Europe. Right, but Putin isn't like that. Putin and Dugin and so on, they are Eurasianists, and they would very likely want to ally with Islam to invade Europe. So Putin is different. If you look at Putin's face, it's not just Slavic, it's slightly Asian, right? So it's different. Yeah, sure, the white people should ally themselves, but we have to see how things fare, right? Putin also kissed the wall. Oh, yeah, amazing. Yeah. All these people are in the top Freemasonry lodges anyway. Like, sometimes Putin would meet with George W. Bush, right? Practically as friends. So it's a bit strange how this all really works. I'm looking at my chat box settings. Here, I'll set something. I set the timer differently. Apply, all right. So yeah, will there be a great war in our lifetime? Most certainly, yeah. Is censorship bad? Yeah, if we would be the ones censoring other people, but you know, they come to our countries and they use our laws against us. It's just, we should not have been so naive. This is the great weakness of white people. We have been way too naive to think that others want to be our equals and would not want to subvert us. I just watched a commercial advertising where there's Aborigines in Australia singing a song, don't sniff the gasoline from the can. Basically, they are addicts and they are gasoline sniffers. It seems to be a massive problem among their communities. They're massively alcoholic and they're massively addictive to sniffing gasoline fumes. Okay, are you really equal to people whose biggest problem is that? It's no. There is no equality in the world. This is also a nonsense concept. What we need, of course, is to shamelessly promote a hierarchy in Europe where we try, because we can't do it perfectly, but we try to put our most competent people, the intelligent ones, but not just intelligent per se, but intelligently effective people who get things done, who achieve great victories for their people. Put them in charge, like an aristocracy, perhaps, somewhat some monarchist elements there, right? And just totally forget about the equality nonsense. We almost need the exact opposite of what we've got now. We do away with equality, we embrace hierarchy. We do away with socialism, we embrace, you know, competitive capitalism, where capitalism is somewhat restricted to families and larger groups of people. I don't mean that the world should be run like a business. It should not be. That's why I dislike Elon Musk. He's trying to run, everything is just a business model to him. And everything is about tricking people into working for the next craze. And that I very much disagree with. We need to be thinking about the following, that we are not we are not victims of technology. Technology should always remain in our hands as our tool. We use the whole technology base as a tool in our hands to achieve our goals. So we remain in the dominant position where we dominate technology, and we will never allow technology to dominate us. I saw also another video of a Chinese robot, a human-looking robot, that started to freak out and flail its arms, hitting its own engineers. And I'm thinking like, oh my God, it's black. If you ever wondered what race robots are, basically, when they go haywire. Yeah, the world should not be run like a business. It's not about tricking people into buying stuff. It's about strengthening our people and raising our people, right? And I don't even support eugenics. I don't want to mess with our genetic code, because that is also the assumption of that you are flawed, and we're not. We're not flawed as a people as a whole. We're fine. We just need to do away with the cultural aspects that are limiting our potential. So it's not us that is the problem. It's the surrounding world that is the problem. But we're going to do something about it. We're going to change our situation by changing our environment, right? Rather than pretending as though we're the problem, and before you know it, we're having 99 genders and nobody knows what they are anymore, right? No, we can confidently assume that what we are, what we were born as, is fine. We don't need to question it. I say nowadays to myself, you can explore what you can do, but don't doubt too much who you are, right? You're born as a white man, you're tall, you know, you're this and that, such and so. Okay, fine, that's it. Don't question that too much, right? Focus on what you can do now, right? So I myself, I weigh too much to ride a horse. I could never be cool like Clint Eastwood in the cowboy movies, because horses don't carry a guy over 90 kilograms. It's not because I'm fat, I'm just big. I'm 6'5". So I could ride a really big Belgian horse, but I would look like Dork the farmer, and I would not look like Clint Eastwood, right? So my point is, accept who you are and what that means to you. Could you be a boxer or a swimmer? Could you be a hunter with the bow, or should you go do something else? Right? Figure out what you can do, and don't worry so much about what you are, because that's a given. Our culture today tells you to question even your gender, right? And question your sexuality. And they deliberately try to confuse you into falling into that trap where you begin questioning everything about you. And before you know it, you start having vaginoplasty to create a fake hole, right? That's what's happened. That's what the whole LGBT trans clown movement did. It deliberately targeted teenage boys to confuse them about who they are, right? To sabotage them, to corrupt them, and to sterilize them, because all these men who've had surgery, they're sterile now, right? All of this, though, kind of proves also that the world is, in fact, deeply, deeply afraid of white men. But it's not because of what we did wrong. It's about our potential, our competence. It's about our ability to use technology to master the world and subjugate it to our will. And they know it. That's why they want us dead. That's why they want us, replaced with immigration. That's why they'll show you images of black and brown people and say, these are real Germans, these are real Dutch people. They want you to forget about who you are, as though you never even existed. They really want to erase you. The Kalergi plan is a true plan. It's not made up. It's funny that these leftists will deny everything, pretend to be angry about it, call you racist, while at the same time they're trying to erase our people. They are racists. Right. Whites are better at dealing with the physical world, yeah. And now they're using our laws against us. We've been too kind, and that's our mistake. We've been too naive and too kind and too giving. We don't need to do that anymore. And this is a cultural thing. We can culturally train our people to quit being like that. Care a bit more about your own people than about other people, right? Instead of, I think the real reason why we are being replaced with immigration is as follows. In the ancient world, slavery was big business, and the Middle East was basically the center of the global slave trade. And that's what they want. They want to use mass immigration to flood Western nations to make slavery, right? So by reducing the value of human beings, because you have so many of them now, 8 billion people, right? And it's not white people whose numbers increasing. Our numbers are dwindling. So they bring in all these other people from Africa, from the Arab world, and so on, from India, to flood our countries, reducing the value of individual human beings, market dynamics. But then you get a slave economy. Get it? So our future economy, all these people who say we need to quit using fossil fuels, you know what it means if we stop using fossil fuels? Then we have to start using horses again. But you'll find that horses are too expensive to maintain. They need 20,000 calories a day. Slaves are a lot cheaper. Human slaves are a lot cheaper. You can get 20 human slaves for a horse, right? Or maybe not 20, maybe 10. If a human eats 2,000 calories a day or so, a slave human, 3,000. Okay, you can get like 5 to 10 slaves for the price of a horse. So human slaves then become the commodity. That's my point. This is what I think mass immigration is really about. It's about reintroducing a global slave economy, but they'll call it progress, right? Yeah, I'm so happy you're back. Yes, I did quit for a while, thinking I needed more of a break till the end of the summer, but I just needed to have a little bit of time to figure out my direction, where I'm going, right? Well, someone says here, the US is only 52% white. Right, but the other 48% would never be able to survive without the 52% white people. So what's this all about, really? The sooner we cut loose from diversity and multiculturalism, the better we'll be off. We need to start doing this quickly and be done with it. And that means, this is my argument against the Trump administration, they focus too much on making money using commercial tactics when we should be focusing on military and technological dominance, right? Which is different. It's a different goal. Yes, I've heard the theory by William Engdahl that fossil fuels may be recurrent, may be recreated, like may in fact be renewable, because they think that the Earth's core sends certain materials up into the crust that we can reach with drilling. And so this should mean that old oil wells may be filled up again. So oil wells that were closed 50 years ago because they were depleted may in fact be full of oil again by now. There are, for example, gas fields in Russia, in Siberia, where the gas is produced by bacteria, and that gas is actually renewable. So keep that in mind. We know for sure that certain gas is renewable because it's produced by bacteria. And it might be similar to oil, although the evidence isn't in yet. We need to keep this clear. The evidence is not clear yet. Yeah, greetings. Do you think an upgrade of the democratic system is possible? Yeah, we will abolish democracy and turn it into an aristocracy. Yeah, aristocracy, yeah. Or something reactionary. Yeah. Simply because why would you want to give a majority of people the right to vote? There's two arguments here. When the majority of those people have the emotional maturity of a 12-year-old at most, right? Have no understanding of what's going on in the world, but they get to vote for their own selfish interests, namely free handouts, more welfare, free housing. Okay, right? And on the other hand, we know for a fact that we don't have real democracies anyway, because the vote of the people never really matters. The vote of the people restricts itself to unimportant things, whereas 80% of the important things are decided by communist elites, communist intellectuals who seem to be reigning, who seem to be in charge in our strange world, right? So we don't really have democracy. We never had a democracy. It's just a smokescreen behind which other people rule, right? Right, democracy is fake. So I don't really. What they mean by democracy is communists telling people what to do, and they don't want you to take that away from them, right? All right, if you want to subscribe or donate, you can go to my website, www.jmk.info. It's my Substack newsletter, and there's an option for a paid subscription if you want it. Or you could subscribe here to my TikTok. I have a subscription option here as well on this channel. What else can you do? I'm also on Twitter at JohannesMKX. You can follow me there, and on YouTube at The Great Johannes. I'll post this video there as well on the YouTube. Yeah, I've heard about the Shiloh situation. Yeah, yeah, she got like $600,000 for. I spoke about it earlier. Yes, for flipping the finger and saying the N word, but you know, she did the right thing. Isn't it time that we just start calling out what we see? Right, right, right. All right, I've run out of steam, and I'll talk to you next time. I'll be back whenever I'm back. I don't have a fixed schedule, but you'll see me pop up here when you're here. All right, have a nice evening.